Hey there friends, welcome back to another Dinkum video. Today we're going to take a tour of this area on my Catalina Island for Rayne. Rayne's area has always been a bit of a challenge for me. I usually just leave it very natural and grown up and very overgrown with plants in just about every other island I have, and I thought I'll do something a little different this time. This build was done on my Catalina Island in creative mode, and it's taken me several weeks working on it off and on to get it where I want it. And I'm sure there's still some things I could do. I could work on this area for quite a while, actually. But we're going to show off what we've done so far, and it is vastly different than what I've done in the past. So buckle in, and let's take a look. If you're coming from Irwin's area over here, and if you haven't checked out that video, I'm going to link it up in the right-hand corner of your screen. You'll come down the road a little further, and eventually you will run into Rayne's plants. Yes, this is definitely a much more manicured situation than I have ever done for Rayne's area before. Used to, I would just let the plants all grow up very natural. You know, in my mind, Rayne is a bit of a hippie, and she wouldn't do anything too terribly structured. But on this island, we've got a lot of very structured things happening, so I decided to really do up a very beautiful nursery. I based this one kind of on one that's in my local area. I took some inspiration from pictures they had online, and so here we are. I decided to do a little courtyard area a la Jersey Games, so this was inspired by him with a few of my own little twists. I did bury these mushroom lamps down in the ground, and at nighttime they really do add a beautiful little glow, but I thought it added something cool to the design too, and adds that pop of turquoise that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise with anything else. And then we've just got planter boxes with plants, lovely central fountain area. And if you come this direction, well, you run right into Rayne's greenhouse. You've got a couple of little options here. You could go right, you can go left, but all around Rayne's area, we've got, plants for sale and just, lush greenery pretty much everywhere. But it's very structured in this particular build, which like I've said, I've never really done before. So let's go over here. I decided to keep a pond that was already here in this area, and just, I feel like if you're at a nursery, especially one like the one that I used as inspiration, and it's also used to rent out for events, you're gonna have this wonderful central, water focal point. So I left I left the pond here, and I had my friend SunnyAnn come over and do kind of her rock edge with all the plants that's become kind of a staple on this island. And then I added some little water fountains out there to kind of just circulate the water, because as you know, you got to aerate the water or it just gets real stagnant. So that's over here, kind of more of the natural side. This area divides Irwin's area from Rayne's, and I decided to not really fill it with much of anything other than natural trees, plants, rocks. Not every space has to be filled or manicured, so there's that. And if you come back over here, and I'm not entirely sure, I should probably show you from the front. Let's go see it. We'll have to also take a look at this at night. But I decided to put the orchard up here too, next to kind of the front courtyard. I have utilized this idea where I put planter boxes around the fruit trees in another island, and this time I decided to sink them down and bury them in the ground next to the fruit trees rather than keep them up. I think it added a little something. I color coordinated the flowers because I'm a weirdo that way. Anybody else? And then out here I just put signage with the type of tree it is. I feel like if you went to any kind of nursery where you're going to be buying plants, they would have something similar in this vein. So let's go take a look at the working part of Rayne's plants. So if you come back over here in front of her greenhouse, you can see that there's a little bit more of the orchard. And if you come over this way, you'll go into I swear, the animals, they just don't stop with the pooing. You come over here into kind of a more working area of the farm. No, it's not a farm. It's a nursery. But she does sell some things here. In addition to beautiful plants, there are crops. And I decided to take the mushrooms in the game and create a little mushroom garden, a little mushroom farm, if you will. I may rework this area. I'm not 100% loving how it turned out. It did not come out quite the way my brain envisioned it. Sometimes it just works that way. So, you know, here we go. I threw in some crafting tables, put some tool racks up to kind of have, this is tools we would use if you were gardening, some pails. I really need these to be placeable at some point, James. That would be fantastic. If you don't mind. A couple of the wells and a windmill, and it looks like a working area for sure. And then, of course, over here, you've got kind of like a mini farmer's market where the products of your fruits of your labor are all out on display. Now, every nursery I've ever been to has an area where they have potted plants and other implements out for sale. And this was also, I took inspiration from my friend SunnyAnn. She has a home and garden center on her island, and she has her stuff arranged kind of similar to this, as you would have at any kind of home and garden-esque place. You've got all the different pots and flower beds and everything that is priced accordingly. And of course, I am loving these new items in the game, the hanging flower basket and the wind chimes. Again, guys, I am in creative mode, so I'll leave that there for you. But you can get those items from the night market currently. So, and then we've got a few more items here, and then potted plants for sale. So I've purposefully tried not to show off this other area because we're going to come back over here. And if you get past the market, you've got the giant farm. We've got every single plant, I believe, in the game, available in the game, growing, and all are harvestable at this point in time. I used the seasonal, so that way, this is for aesthetics, it's not for practicality. And then I put up some scarecrows. They're definitely pretty frightening. This is a configuration where this one water tower can water every single one of these planting stations, if you will. It reaches all of these, what do you call them? Sprinklers, yeah. Look at that. I went a little crazy with the watermelons. And now they're growing in the walkway. We're just going to pretend like that's not there. But I thought this turned out really good. I loved trying to figure this out. It hurt my brain just a little bit. And then you come over here, and behind Rayne's greenhouse, we've got a few other areas. If you're walking around shopping, there's some more things to buy in these crates, if you'd like. And some mostly the farm products and some mushrooms, but you know, if you needed to do that, you could. We got a tool rack here as well, and we've dropped some items here and there that would be used in any kind of gardening center. Now here is where she's propagating some flowers in these raised beds. I considered burying them in the ground. I didn't really like the way that looked as much. I felt like this was a little bit more realistic, a little bit more what you would see at a nursery or a greenhouse where they're growing their own plants, basically. And then, of course, you've got over here, we've got a little kind of shed lean-to situation, as we call it here in East Texas, where we've got our tractor and we've got a mower, a couple different mowers, some crafting tables, just some little details we've put out to go, hey, this is a farm, right? And over here, we've got a few worm farms and some composting bins. I put up the vine trellises to kind of just block the view back there, as I am not yet finished working on that space. In fact, I'm not quite sure what we're putting back there yet, so yeah. We've dropped a few other little tools and things down, and then we've got some bee houses, and then a little setup over here to sell the honey and the mighty spread. And it's missing some signage, but that's okay, right? And then we're getting another view of the pond area here that's more natural. I went in and added some of these little potted glowing mushrooms. Look, the doggo's swimming. That's fun. Instead of burying mushrooms in the ground, I was like, I'm going to use this new item. I really liked it. I thought it was cute. Again, I used the ramps to kind of create a sloping effect with the natural terrain. I did not do a whole lot of dirt printing or compacting to make this area. I've been trying to stay true to the nature of the landscape, just as a little challenge for myself. Now, this area out here, we did do a little compacting where Rayne's area is, and of course the courtyard and the orchard. But believe it or not, not a lot. This actually used to be, this area out here used to have a bunch of ore. So if this were a working island and not, like a regular vanilla island and not a creative island, this would definitely, that wouldn't have been a good idea, because then I got rid of all of my ore. Where's it going to spawn now? But I thought this area turned out absolutely amazing. I had a lot of fun working on it. It took a long time because I'd work on one part where I'd get inspired, and then I would kind of lull in what I was going to do next, and I would have to stop and come back to it. I do think this is probably the most impressive Rayne's build I've ever done on any island. For me, this is very structured because I usually just do very willy-nilly, let the plants grow up everywhere, and I feel like this turned out beautifully. Let me show you what it looks like on my map. As you can see, Erwin's area is over here, and then we've got Rayne here. This pond was here. I did not dig that out. And then you've got this entire section down here that turned out to be Rayne's. And we may even push it back even further. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to work that. As you can see, I am reseeding my entire island in fir grass because I think it's the prettiest. I will take no notes on that. Thank you very much. Also, I think it might be fun to do some sort of meditation garden out here on this little island. Make maybe a bridge over the water here and here that you can access, and have a pathway coming down. So in relation to the downtown area, that if you've been watching on my live streams, this is where it is. So this is where we're at with this island, you guys. We've got about maybe, no, not quite half. Not quite half. I guess if you count some of that up there, maybe it's getting close to it. But we still got a lot of room to roam, you guys. And the next big build is probably going to need to be the airport or the mine. I had this idea to build a beautiful quarry area inspired by my friend Rymanora. So I don't know, but this is what it looks like. This is the front little courtyard area, and then of course the orchard. And then this is the square configuration for the all the plants. If you want to maximize on your vanilla islands, you want to maximize your gardening situation, you need to follow this particular pattern right here. Well, no tour is complete without kind of getting an evening or a night view. And of course, we're just in time for sunset here on Catalina. I do think the subtle glow of all the floor lights and the mushroom lamps really makes this area pop. I think it turned out fantastic. I really like the copper lights here versus some of the other ones. I tried all the different lights, and I feel like this ended up looking the best and really matched the vibe of the area a little bit more. And then of course the little garden lights here in the courtyard and scattered throughout the build, but mostly in this area. Okay, you go down here. Don't mind the mess. I haven't had time to clean. And you can see this soft glow from all the lights. I like that there's not a lot of bright light. I had considered putting, the copper lights everywhere, and I think it just kind of made it look too city-like, and I wanted it to kind of stay, most places are not going to be open past dark like this in real life. So, we don't always bring all the realism to the builds, but sometimes we do. And then you've got the mushroom lamps who are kind of giving this soft glow over in this area. And so I opted not to put any floor lights because I felt like they were giving off their own light over here as well. So I just think this area is very pretty and serene, and I'd come hang out here. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I'm really liking it. Of course, now inside the actual garden itself, there's not as much light because the configuration does not really leave room for much of that within the actual planted vegetation. So I did put them along the walkways here and there, and then there's quite a lot of light over here where all the flowers are. So I think this is just turned out really lovely. I like the glow of the greenhouse itself. It just really looks, I don't know, it's just one of my favorite builds that we've done so far. And I keep saying that with every one, but I mean it. And then I didn't want to put a tremendous amount of light out here at the pond area, but I think there's just enough that it gives it a little bit of a pop. And of course, I didn't cover the area in jacaranda trees, but I did put a few in a few strategic areas, and I think they turned out really, really well. It gives a pop of color against all of the green, and I really, really love how that looks. So let's get an aerial shot of all of this, and we'll go from there. All right, and here we are. Get a bird's eye view of what everything looks like from above. Very structured, definitely very well manicured. I feel like it kind of represents the inspiration nursery that I picked to kind of build this off of. And we're definitely going to have to figure out what to do back there with all that land that we have. And again, I kept this area completely just natural. I did not butt the two builds up against each other. I feel like if I ever want to expand Irwin's area just a little bit, I've got a little bit of wiggle room to do that with and not have to worry about everything being jammed in there together. So this is what it looks like from the air. Are you guys inspired? I hope so. I enjoy putting all these together for you. It's always a lot of fun. I also changed the season so you could see it in fall. I think that looks really pretty too, in addition to this spring. You can do that with the magic tome that you find down in the mines. All right, there you have it, folks. This concludes our little tour of Rayne's area here on my Catalina island that's in creative mode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you feel inspired to build something beautiful for Rayne's area on your islands. If you've been liking this content, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And if you are a subscriber, well, come on over and join the member side of things. It's quite chaotic over there and we have a lot of fun. So come on, check it out. We start memberships at 99 cents. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for being here and hanging out with me and being inspired by all the creativity that is available to us in Dinkum. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll be back for more. So in the meantime, y'all be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.